dad did too. So that's probably why I identified with him and we bonded so closely. But the thing is, he wouldn't go to my dad's funeral. When my sister died some years later, because she was really close with me and I was close with her. And I asked him, I said, please come to the funeral of our sister. We only had two sisters and one is now dead. I pleaded with him to come. I think he was even staying in her trailer at the time of her death. I pleaded with him to come to her funeral. He refused. I said, I pointed out to him, I graduated from high school, you weren't there. I pointed out to him all the time, and I'm asking you to do this for me. He refused to come, even to his own sister's funeral. That's the way it is sometimes. We can harbor all kind of things in our hearts. My dad didn't do some things for me that I would have wanted him to do. And one day my anger took hold on me. The Bible says that anger resteth in the bosom of a fool. And I was so angry with my dad one day, I was just mad at the world. And I was mad at him. I was a senior in high school, graduated from high school. One of my brothers and I bought this car with him. I started buying a car when I was 14 years old. Dad let us buy a car in his name, of course, but we had to pay for it. So at 14 years old, I'm paying for a car. This other brother who was a senior, he's 17 years old at the time. He's supposed to be helping pay for the car, but he wasn't helping. So I was paying for the car note by myself. And my dad said to me, he said, y'all got this car. He said, you got this car or something. Y'all got this car. You gonna pay for it. He said, y'all got this car. And he told me I was gonna pay for it. I was paying for the car note by myself. While my brother was allowed to go to school, I had to work at night. He would let him, I had to work. It was crazy what was happening. But that's what happens in life sometimes. Crazy things happen. And years later, after I went to school and became a dentist and everything, my dad told me, I had so much hatred and bitterness. Let me go back. I had so much hatred and bitterness in my heart. Over that, they sold my car, gave him the money, bought another car for the family, and I was just no car. I was so mad. I was so mad at the world one day, I almost lost my life. I was painting some metal trusses. I was doing it by myself and doing a good job. I was just working fast and hard, and I was so filled with anger. I was working too fast. I threw those trusses one side. Those things fell on me. They fell on my right arm and trapped it in the air. I hollered for my brother to come get them off of me. And while he's coming to get them off of me, I was fussing at him. He wasn't working fast enough. He dropped them on himself and on my head. My right arm was strapped up in the air toward the heavens, and my other head was hit, and I'm bleeding from the head profusely. And I was still mad. I was telling him, get him off me, get him off me. He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't even cry for help because they cut off his air. He couldn't even holler for help. Now all of a sudden I realized the predicament I was in, and then I began to cry out to God. First of all, I started crying out to God. I thought, look at this. My right hand was up in the air. I'm bleeding from my head. I felt like I was being crucified for my anger. I was bleeding from my head, and all I could see was my red blood falling on the black ground that I was painting black. My blood was mixing with that black paint. Then I began to say, Lord, I'm sorry. I began to cry out to God, Lord, I'm sorry. I realized my anger done put me in a deadly situation. And I said, Lord, I'm sorry. And I began to tell God I was sorry. Then I realized he couldn't cry for help. And I'd holler for help a minute, and then I'd tell God I'm sorry. I won't do it no more. I meant it too. I was mad at the world. I was mad at God. And the Lord sent somebody Bible in just a few minutes' time to deliver us and help us. I was so thankful for that.